How did you learn to scale, at such a young age? Because usually it takes some failure, setbacks, and
Mhm.
mistakes to get to a point where you have the situational knowledge to know how, or have the foresight to play chess instead of
Yeah.
checkers
Yeah.
and scale your business with 35,000 clients in a team of 150 people before your eight-figure exit.
I started my business when I was 17 years old. And at that point of time, my co-founder and myself, we didn't know anything at all. And there was so many limiting beliefs. There were so many mistakes that we had to make before we knew what worked, before we found out how systems were important, before we figured out how to get our business to the next level. So it was a process of, literally going through the school of hard knocks. And I remember like one of my limiting beliefs at that point as a teenager entrepreneur were all the limiting beliefs that I had as a kid, where my family, they really prioritized and told me the importance of hard work and putting in time and effort into whatever you do. And as a entrepreneur, that's a great attitude, but taken the right way. When I was starting my business, I thought that meant that you had to do the work all by yourself. And so that limited my growth so much when it came to managing a team, when it came to growing a team. I remember one of the bottlenecks of the business was literally me. So yeah, that literally was like my journey. It was really going through all these experiences myself before I knew and figured out how to really scale up businesses.
And what you've just done is describe that discovery process that I think a lot of founders end up going through is
Yeah.
how do I begin to rely on my team? I don't have to do it all myself. And if you've recruited well, you've got people that have bought into your idea. They share to a significant degree your passion. Now they just need to be let loose. And
Exactly. Get out of their
that's
way, let
yeah.
them
You get out of
create.
the way, the co-creation. But that is a difficult thing for a founder to do, and for somebody. And I'm very familiar with the Asian culture. I've spent years working in China and Japan, so the hard work, the just put your nose down and just How did you specifically find yourself moving away from that mindset to being able to trust yourself that you could handle the consequences, real or imagined, of letting your team run with it?
Sometimes you've just got to be battered down enough before you realize there's no choice but to embrace that. I'm sure a lot of the listeners have gone through this before as well, where there's so much work coming from all directions. There's responsibilities and commitments everywhere, and everything that something that all of us share is the same 24 hours in a day. And that's something that I faced. Like there literally was absolutely no more time that I could squeeze out of my day. And I just found myself working on every single task. And when I looked at the future of the business back then, this must have been maybe the early or the mid 2000s. And I simply couldn't cope with it. I simply couldn't see a future in which I was doing all this by myself and the business was still growing. That was a highly, highly stressful time because the more the business grew, the more stressed out I got and the worse I felt. So it was literally all that coming together that made me realize that there was no way I could really go on like that. And I just it was probably like a epiphany that showed me that something had to change. And I realized it was a question that I was asking myself. The question that I was asking myself was, how do I solve this and how do I do that and how do I it's I.
Mhm.
But the real question that business owners and entrepreneurs should ask ourselves is, how do we solve this? And bring in the concept of leverage, bring in the concept of using the strengths of your team, using processes and systems, and having that leverage to bring your business much higher.